We've got some big news in that we are now a SMB channel partner with OpenAI, which means that, well, it means a bunch of things, but it certainly means that we've been selected as an expert in the field to go and promote and implement those services that are offered by OpenAI. Our job here right now is to talk about why it matters for our clients and why it matters for the market generally, both from what OpenAI is doing with this program and how we're going to utilize this partnership to get even better results for our clients. Discuss.
OpenAI has changed the way a lot of people work already. Like it's
certainly me.
It's not often, there's not too many kind of era-defining companies, I guess. That
it's like a revolution, right? It's like an industrial, yeah.
And so, Google's been probably the last big, one that's really changed how businesses work. Obviously, Microsoft was before that. There's been a few, Microsoft revolutionized Office work.
Yeah.
Google came along and really changed the way we use the internet.
Yep.
I think it was not that long ago, really, that most people, AI was something.
It was not in the sort of periphery. It wasn't even there.
That's right. Yeah. And so if you had to say, well, who was it that actually brought that to people?
November 2022, I think it was ChatGPT's launch.
ChatGPT. And so, that has become pretty ubiquitous with people's lives now. And people associate, yes, there's other providers out there, but certainly OpenAI and ChatGPT have become, as I said, era-defining
with this moment in time. So
and I think that most people's interaction with it is at the personal level. Yeah. People use it in their personal lives. They then, rightly or wrongly, put some work stuff in there. People will, a lot of people, and my first interaction as well, paying for a pro license, like a personal license.
Same.
So, and then you've got at the other end, OpenAI themselves doing a lot of work with very big business. You see in Australia doing deals with Commonwealth Bank and Woolworths and some, very, very large enterprise, or interacting at what they call the platform. So you've got chat products, the ChatGPT, and then you've got platforms. So that's interacting at the token level using APIs. And so
consumption-based, right?
Consumption-based tokens, the software layer, not so much about individuals now, more at the software layer. So people interacting at the top end through APIs, like developers doing stuff and enterprise, and then you've got people using it personally. There's a big gap in the middle. And that is that a large number of businesses are SMBs.
Especially in Australia, SMB economy.
SMB, and even up to mid-market, right? Which mid-market for us in Australia is really still SMB for the US, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So that part of the market, OpenAI see as a gap, and a gap that they can't fill themselves, can't service effectively themselves, can't sell to effectively themselves, and can't help, as in can't turn, well, here's some tools, but actually turn it into useful stuff. So really interesting challenge that they've got. And like a lot of other technology companies, the best way to do that is through a channel approach.
Yep.
Picking select partners who will essentially become their experts and both their sales team, but also their service and implementation partners out in the market. Yeah.
Just quickly, not meaning to interrupt, but Core is the future of managed services. We have essentially launched a service that is productivity as a service. If you want to know more about how you can get the most out of your investment in AI and automation, get in touch and we'll be happy to talk.
Because it's one thing to get the license, it's another to embed it and to get real ROI from it, right?
Correct. So, really, look, as I said, we've been talking to them for what? 9 months,
at least
12 months, to get to this point. Like always, our strategy around technology is to pick the best and the ones that we can implement into our customer, the right size, the right technologies for our customers. And we're seeing over and over again through our own use and what we have already done with customers that it is a amazingly powerful technology that most people are only scratching the surface of.
Very true. Okay, so what are we going to do now for our customers off the back of this announcement? What's going to change in terms of the conversations we're having or they're having with their technical account manager and the way we're looking to solve problems with them?
There's a lot of lot of our clients already, we know, using ChatGPT in, let's say, unstructured ways. And I know most executives, or most executive teams that I go in and talk to in our customer base, there's at least most of the room is using it to some degree. But that's not in a very organized, structured, safe necessarily way, right? So that we are going to be changing that. And actually, part of the conversation is that, okay, if that's like most executives are using it regularly, I don't think it's now just executives that should be using it. It's the entire business.
Well, we've rolled it out to all 350 odd staff, albeit the enterprise version, but still.
Yeah, that's right. There's the ChatGPT Business, which we started on, and that caps out usually around a couple of hundred users, and then you tend to move to enterprise plan. But the key is not just going, here, everyone, here's a license. It's adoption, it's tailoring, it's integrating with other things, and it's then also going back to using the platform side of OpenAI to build custom integrations and custom workflow and integrate it into other systems. So, very much we will be, I wouldn't say pushing only ChatGPT Business, but we certainly want to have a very select number of preferred solutions in this space. We know some businesses are already deploying Microsoft Copilot in some ways, and obviously OpenAI very much know that as well. They know that Microsoft is the dominant player in that space, but we're also seeing mixed success and mixed feedback in that. And so I think there's definitely going to be situations where ChatGPT Business is the better approach, or both side by side. And I think this is an interesting thing that people go, it's actually not even, it has to be one or the other. For the price, it's amazing how much value you can get out of even running multiple tools, right? So very much looking at rolling this out, supporting it, empowering users, supporting their use of it, and and getting the most out of that platform. I think it's essential for anyone that cares about productivity in their organization. It's essential.
And important point there. I don't think there's anybody in any business at the moment that doesn't think they can drive productivity through the use of AI and automation. But I think there's two key things that are holding them back. One is, who are the experts? Who should I be talking to in this space to actually get my head around what to start with, how to implement it, how to drive adoption? So there's that. There is also the, how do I actually get real ROI? And I kind of touched on it there. But for me, with my marketing hat on, what this partnership does, what it allows us to do is very clearly be seen as what we are, which is experts in the field, driving real returns for our customers, which, if people watching this haven't seen the AI investment fund videos where we've funded these ideas that very much have real returns and drive the P&L in a very real direction, a good direction, that's important too. That's what we're here to do. And for me, what I'm really appreciative of with this partnership that we've entered into with OpenAI is the fact that it really does reward us for work we've done to date and allows us to put that partner logo up that says all the right things to the market. So we're easy to find. We've got a great track record and back catalog of completed AI automation projects now. And, ChatGPT is at the heart of a lot of that. Yeah.
I think that it's, is it, like you said, I think I will challenge anyone that says they can't find $35 worth of savings from one person or, extra productivity from one person with the cost of a license. I mean, that's a no-brainer. And I think any business that isn't fully and wholly not just rolling it out to a select number, but fully and wholly rolling it out, building custom GPTs and custom project stuff within the ChatGPT platform that everyone has access to and everyone is using. Now there's stuff you can collaborate with even inside a project and a single chat, and it's actually it's moving fast as well. So it's not a wait and maybe there'll be something new coming out next month. It's getting now because it's just getting further and further behind.
Definitely. With this partnership, us being an SMB channel partner with OpenAI, we also get access to the academy and to a lot of partner resources, which I think, again, is, don't want to overlook that. We've got a lot of staff that are going to learn a lot of things really quickly, both through doing and also these resources we've got access to. So that is, I think I probably haven't made enough noise about that yet, but I think that is also really exciting.
Yeah, and look, they are doing a heap of work themselves in the enablement piece because they know that, it's not just a license. And I think that's maybe where Microsoft's fallen down a little, I would say, is it has just been buy a license and off you go. It does take more than that. And then if I look at, as we look at other competitors in this space. If you look at your Anthropic and Google, obviously probably the other two big players, they absolutely have their use cases and the bits that they're good. But personally, I know I keep coming back to ChatGPT and OpenAI.
Yep.
And the ecosystem that they are creating is actually pretty good. And the amount of stuff now that it can connect to and query, like we're obviously heavy Slack users and SharePoint and all those kinds of things. But that's now it's all integrated. It's not an island over here. And I think again, if you're coming back to, well, why should I do this as opposed to just having my own pro license or whatever over here? It's like a fully integrated ChatGPT to all the business systems.
Yeah.
Like I said, most people don't even know what's possible there.
Yeah. So interesting with even our version with ChatGPT Enterprise and all the connectors we've got. So many people I've spoken to didn't realize, you press the plus next to it, you go down the bottom, you do that, you go there. Like the things you can get specific answers from by clicking the right buttons just goes to show even basic things that drive greater return, drive productivity. There's so many parts to teach, to educate people on. So there is that. I feel like there's actually a graphic I should get my team to help me create something, because there is no one thing that makes an MSP an AI expert. It's a range of things. And this is in part about visibility as an OpenAI partner. It's in part about our own team's education and expertise. But then we've got Core as a product, which ensures that if you are buying these licenses, you've got access to the resources you need to not just embed it, but to keep educating new users as they come on, to iterate, to improve, and again, have that AI and automation at the heart of your business. So I think there's definitely a flywheel or something there that I need to create. Yeah. But I don't know if you've got sort of thoughts on that, exactly what we as an MSP have done across multiple spaces to ensure that we really are leading the market when it comes to AI.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it before in other chats. Kind of the idea around we had to race ahead of where where customers were, because when it all came out, we were only just discovering it as customers were discovering it, and so we've had to put a bunch of money and time and people into getting well ahead of where our clients are in this space, and so a lot of hits and misses and trials and things that worked really well. But I think, like you said, with especially building Core and bringing this as a fundamental part of that, what a managed service needs to look like now, is because this is now core piece of technology that your business needs to use. Yeah,
is there a reason why it's called that?
Yeah. Look, it's moving fast, and I think that the MSPs in general are coming from that infrastructure background, whereas what we're seeing is the team that's leading the way in having these conversations. We deliberately have our consulting team, which is really around technology enablement and experience and business, as opposed to infrastructure, is in a completely separate part of our business.
Wow.
Right? It's not. It sits under our client services. Like it doesn't come under our technology team, right? Because it's actually it's a completely different skill set and a completely different mindset compared to the traditional type of traditional type of waterfall project management and infrastructure and that kind of stuff. So different type of people, different way you roll it out, and different way you get adoption.
I want to change it up a bit here and start talking a little bit about Core in a little bit more detail. I've got a point here that says AI without secure governance is a risk. Talk to me about what the pace and I guess the options when it comes to AI, the way they can be incorporated into your business workflows or just used through the chat function, whatever. What is that doing to really drive that security and data governance piece?
Just to interrupt things quickly, if you are all in on AI, or soon will be, you're going to want a managed service that enables your team to make the most of your investment. If you want to learn more about Core and the future of managed services, get in touch to find out.
Look, it's there's a link there, I think, but there's also some bits that have to be handled quite separately. Certainly one thing that introducing any sort of AI workflow or productivity tool over the top of data certainly surfaces any issues that existed already. And so, a lot of the time when we are going in and turning this sort of stuff on for the first time, we're often having to start at the data permissions, that kind of level.
Yep.
And it's really not creating a problem. It's just showing you the problem you had.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece. But then certainly the governance of the actual AI, use of AI itself, certainly a lot better when you mandate a platform use for the business, because certainly if you don't, what you are guaranteeing is that people are using whatever they want, whenever they want.
Yeah.
And that's actually the biggest risk here. And it doesn't take much for one person in one team or department to not have clicked the little toggle that says, don't make my data part of the model kind of thing.
Yeah.
So as opposed to having those controls at the business level, and part of what we can offer as part of Core is then restricting access to the systems that aren't approved.
Yes.
So if ChatGPT is our platform, well, I'm not going to let you go over here to Claude. I'm not going to let you go over here to use Google Gemini, because this is our choice. So, there is a element of if you give people what they need, there's less desire or need to go outside that. Yeah. But then you can also put some firm rails in place if you want as well. Yeah.
I mean, you've got to be thinking about employee experience. If you want the best people working for you, you've got to give them the right tools. And if you're going to tell them they can't have something, you need to be giving them something better. And I think coming back to ChatGPT Business, that's a big part of why we've chosen that platform, not in isolation amongst a couple of others, but we know it to be, as you said earlier, kind of synonymous with AI. It's the best.
Yeah. It was interesting. We talk about best people, and I was over in our Philippines office late last year and just chatting to someone, and they were saying, he's really great to, First Focus, great employer. And one of the perks that she mentioned was the fact that we give them a ChatGPT license.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have thought, that's normal, isn't it? But that's actually seen as something that was,
I guess you can use it for whatever you want. And it's just a really great tool, but it's not strictly just a business tool. So, I mean, it's there to be used for whatever.
It's interesting. And shows that, and again, that there's this assumption that the lower down I go in how much I'm paying in salary, there's less need to make that person extra productive maybe as well, which is why I said, you see executives like, I use ChatGPT all the time. I'm not going to pay the $30 to have everyone using it though. And I think that mentality has to shift as well, which is, it's doesn't take much to get the improvement in not necessarily productivity, but it could also be a quality improvement, right? Consistency improvement. So, lots of reasons.
What we do know about AI is it's going to keep moving pretty bloody quickly. It's been certainly doing that to date.
Yeah.
So my take on the governance and security piece is simply that you need to make sure you're working with a partner and are on a plan with a technical account manager who's looking after you, is coming in each month and going, what are we automating this month? What are we doing to improve your security posture this month? What are we doing to further cement your data governance, and your Privacy Act compliance there? Because as AI keeps moving, I'm sure the way it's to stress tests your underlying data set, etc., will continue to change.
Yeah, and look, there's no such thing as perfect security. There never is. I think that, like you said, as long as you are continually going back to it and looking at what's changed, what's next, where might the gap be? How do I know if there's a gap? Being curious.
Yep.
Because just assuming that, I've got something in place, therefore my security is all good now. That will never be the case. So that's one element of it. I think that, as you said, moving fast, and it's going to continue to
race ahead.
And we don't know exactly what's coming next, but
we certainly don't. All right, I want to talk about, again, I've got you here. I might as well just get all the talking points I can out of you. Adoption is the metric that matters. I've heard you talk about that before. If you want to know whether you're on track to get a return on your AI or automation initiative, look at adoption rates.
Yeah.
Talk to me more about that, and particularly just around the fact that anyone can buy licenses, but again, that in isolation doesn't achieve anything.
adoption does give you an early insight into whether something's working or not, something's kind of taking, because I think you can work in theory and then you kind of go, well, why aren't people using this? And we've talked so many times about perceived, ease of use,
Perceived usefulness. I love it.
usefulness, and often that lens is what it comes back to. So trying to understand, well, why aren't people using that thing? And maybe they tried it a couple of times and it wasn't good, whatever it might be. But the important thing is, if adoption is not meeting kind of where you expect it, continually relaunch, like work out why. But also the thing I would say that most people aren't very good at is knowing when to abandon something or kill it, when to go completely down another path. Like, and I think I was at the CO Institute Summit.
I was there. I saw you.
We're talking about this up on stage around, you need to both encourage experimentation, but also require proof to scale. So that is, you don't want to make your guardrails so harsh that nobody can even try something, because you're relying on maybe one or two people to come up with the ideas and force them down on everybody, rather than letting people experiment and have the ideas coming up.
Yeah.
Problem with that is, someone comes up with an idea, they use it, they like it, 2 other people, then 4 other people, and see something. But you get this, all of a sudden you have something in production that didn't kind of go through the proper life cycle. Yeah, and no one really validated it was actually worth it, validated the spend. So that kind of encourage experimentation at small scale, but needing some gates to kind of, before it becomes a real thing. And those gates are both around ROI and also things like security and governance and that kind of stuff. Like you can't just have people experimenting forever and people in all different teams creating random things that overlap and don't manage the data well, and you end up with these islands of all sorts of challenges, right? So, the adoption is interesting. It needs to come from top and bottom, I guess, is the summary there.
So adoption is key, but also make sure you want people to adopt it.
Make sure you want people to adopt it. And it said the best adoption can actually come from people experimenting and solving a real problem, because instead of it said most projects are decided by a few people in a small room, and then we're gonna deploy this thing now, without actually validating or having people that are actually going to be the ones that are needing to use it.
And is this problem widespread? Is it felt by others? Is it actually a multi-role problem or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of seeing stuff that's actually created by people for their own use, and then having it kind of roll up from there.
I want to know how you feel about the sentence, AI is now foundational for small to medium-sized businesses. Discuss.
Yes, look, I think it's a simplification. I think AI, like a lot of terms, it's like saying when cloud is. It's so broad. A lot of people confuse AI with automation.
Yeah. Yep. Everything's AI now.
That's right. Yeah. So I would say I put it into a few different buckets. I would say a productivity tool. So specifically like a ChatGPT Business, which that application of AI, so having my own personal assistant, a productivity tool that I use, I would say is essential. What's also essential is understanding how to automate processes in a business, and how many of those can now be either augmented or completely solved using AI. So some automation is very deterministic, this, then this, then this, then this. We've had that sort of automation around for a long time.
Yep.
You've got 2 benefits now. Is one, you can, sprinkle AI into that to solve bits of that workflow that were traditionally quite hard.
Kind of like we did with geo-blocking, right? We sprinkled in a bit of AI at the front, and at the end, the middle was still...
Yeah, you got some natural language here. You got maybe the ability to generate some content at the end. Yeah. Or you've got something that's... You then go to the next stage of automation where something is more fully built around AI, where it's actually doing some decision making using AI as part of that. So one of the projects we've been kind of playing around with internally around timesheet approval, right? Now, you can go and build up all the logic rules around what a approval workflow needs to look like. Check for this time entry and this code and that kind of stuff. That's automation. You can do a little bit of AI to read the text. Very different to go, here's a heap of data that explains what good time data looks like. Now from that, assess these time entries.
Right.
That's very different, right? And so that's, I think, where people like behind the scenes are not, I kind of just, it's all just AI. Well, no, it's automation and it's using AI, or am I using AI to use that data to kind of make up its own mind?
Yeah, okay. Which again, we talked about sort of data governance, which it kind of ties into is garbage in, garbage out. Like you need to have the data set.
Yeah, if you want to do that sort of AI stuff, like here's some perfect data.
Yeah.
Now build some rules based on that, as opposed to I'm going to tell you the rules. And yeah, I'm using AI in some of it, but I'm still telling you the rules. So that decision-making difference is big.
I would say one thing we might finish out the AI chat on here is just, even if you're in a business today and you're not currently all in on a platform or whatever, that's fine. But be thinking about your data. What are you storing? How are you storing it? What do you think, based on what you know about your business, that the high volume, manual workflows currently, what data would help you in the future if you were to look at how does that look done well, all that kind of thing, right? And I know you've talked before, you started being obsessed with data and making sure everyone else was too a long time ago. And that's enabling us to move fast now.
Yeah, because I think with data is by the time you need it, you need to have been capturing it for a while.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing. It's like I need to record everything so that in the future, when I might need some analytics or some good data to create some trends or to train a model, I've got 3 years worth, or, that it's not, if I start today, I don't have anything.
Yeah.
So yes, always capture as much data as possible in lots of different ways. The other thing you mentioned there, which I thought was interesting, is around choosing a platform.
Just to be clear, you just said I was interesting. So thank you. That's good. Yes, choose a platform. Yep.
Choosing a platform. I think we are at that junction where, just like businesses, 10 or 20 years ago, we're kind of choosing, am I choosing Office 365, or am I choosing G Suite, or am I choosing, I think we are at that point now where it's not just an add-on tool. Like you need now choose which ecosystem you want to be in.
Which is so hard, because every other week you're told that Gemini's got a new release and it's the best.
Yeah.
Claude's just done this thing. OpenAI's just done this thing. There's never going to be a perfect moment, as far as I can tell, where, now I'm clear on which one's the best option.
Yeah, and I think when you see those sort of things, they're generally talking about the model itself. They're not judging the ecosystem.
Go on.
And so Google Gemini is a great example. Like, it probably is the best choice if you're in G Suite. But if you're not, well, it's too isolated still to actually plug into everything else that I need day to day.
Yeah, okay.
So I think it's not so much just about choosing the model, it's choosing the ecosystem you're in, and you're only going to choose that you're in Office 365.
You're going to make that choice once, maybe twice.
Yeah, that's right. You've got these kind of big choices, and that's where, and then everything else can plug into those.
So which comes back to, if there's any uncertainty at all, that's when you probably do your fire a couple of bullets before you go big. What problem are we trying to solve? Can we prove out the model? Dive in, right?
Yeah.
Which is actually very similar to what we did. We did try a couple of things, and we course corrected very quickly, and we all in on ChatGPT Enterprise.
Yeah. And so that's where ChatGPT Business, which is obviously what we're going to be, what we're specifically being tasked by OpenAI to go and to talk about. The great thing with ChatGPT Business is that you can you can do it with no commit. You can do month to month. Yes, there are some discounts for locking in, but it is actually very feasible to go, well, let's turn this on and try.
Chances are this conversation has got you thinking about AI and automation in your business. If you're going down that path, you're going to want the right managed service, one that ensures that you get a return on your investment. Get in touch to talk to us about Core.